Hi, I'm Dr. Dan. And welcome back to the channel where we explore how nations build their future through smart development, infrastructure, and people-first strategies. Today, we're diving into one of the most underappreciated but most consequential forces shaping the future of global power, how China's control over rare earth minerals has become a silent weapon. These 17 elements don't just fuel electric vehicles and smartphones, they fuel the world economy. And in 2025, China showed just how quickly it could bring everything to a halt. This is the hidden engine of modern technology, and possibly the fuse for the next great economic standoff. What are rare earth minerals? Despite the name, they're not actually rare. 17 metallic elements like neodymium and dysprosium power our modern world. They make magnets, stronger screens brighter, and electric cars possible. Without them, our technology would be slower, bulkier, and less efficient. The real challenge isn't finding them, it's processing them. Extracting and refining rare earths is complex, costly, and environmentally damaging. Most countries avoided the mess China didn't. That's why production isn't spread evenly across the globe. The world depends not just on who has the minerals, but on who can process them. The real power lies in refining, not just mining. That's the heart of the rare earth story. China's dominance was no accident, it was a calculated strategy. In the 1980s, while others ignored rare earths, China invested in mining and, crucially, refining. By undercutting prices and accepting environmental costs, China drove competitors out of business. Soon it controlled over 90% of the world's supply. But China didn't stop at raw materials, it lured high-tech manufacturing to its shores, locking in global dependence. Today, even if other countries mine rare earths, they often send them to China for processing. This deep dependency took decades to build and can't be undone overnight. It's a masterclass in long-term strategy. The year is 2025. A seemingly ordinary announcement ripples through the global markets, but its impact will be anything but. China, a dominant force in the rare earth element market, declares a significant cut to its exports. The reason cited? Environmental concerns, a growing global imperative. But beneath the surface, geopolitical tensions and strategic calculations are at play. This decision sends shockwaves across industries worldwide, exposing a critical vulnerability in the global supply chain. The world watches with bated breath, unaware of the impending economic storm. The result? Global chaos. Trading floors erupt in frenzy as prices skyrocket. Emergency boardroom meetings are convened as executives scramble to assess the damage. News headlines scream of a looming supply crisis, fueling panic and uncertainty. The global economy teeters on the brink as industries brace for the impact of this sudden scarcity. The intricate web of international trade begins to unravel, revealing the fragility of our interconnected world. Automakers in the US, Germany, and Japan halted production. Missing just one rare earth magnet stopped entire assembly lines. The automotive industry, a cornerstone of modern economies, grinds to a standstill. Factories fall silent, assembly lines come to a halt, and thousands of workers face uncertainty. The ripple effect extends far beyond the factory floor, impacting suppliers, distributors, and consumers alike. The dream of electric vehicles powered by rare earth magnets faces an unexpected roadblock. Electronics prices soared as key components became scarce. Smartphones, laptops, and other essential devices become luxury items, out of reach for many consumers. The digital age, built on a foundation of readily available electronics, faces a sudden crisis. Innovation slows as manufacturers struggle to secure the necessary materials. The promise of technological progress is threatened by a simple shortage. New product launches were delayed and consumers felt the pinch. Empty shelves and inflated prices become the new normal, as consumers grapple with the reality of scarcity. The frustration mounts as the latest gadgets remain out of reach, and the promise of technological advancement fades into the background. The everyday conveniences we take for granted are suddenly threatened, highlighting our dependence on a complex global supply chain. The defense sector was hit hardest. Rare earths are vital for jet engines, missiles, and communications. National security is jeopardized as the production of critical military equipment grinds to a halt. The reliance on rare earths for jet engines, missiles, and communication systems exposes a critical vulnerability in national defense strategies. The balance of power shifts as nations struggle to maintain their military capabilities. Governments discovered their stockpiles were dangerously low. Panic sets in as nations realize their strategic reserves are insufficient to weather the storm. Emergency meetings are convened as policymakers scramble to find solutions. The vulnerability of relying on a single source for critical materials becomes painfully clear. The crisis exposed a stark reality. A single country could paralyze industries worldwide. The intricate web of global supply chains, once a symbol of interconnectedness, becomes a source of vulnerability. The concentration of rare earth production in a single nation highlights the risks of over-reliance and the need for diversification. The 2025 shock wasn't just economic, it was a wake-up call about strategic vulnerability. It forced nations to re-evaluate their dependence on single-source suppliers and to prioritize the security of their supply chains. The crisis served as a catalyst for change, prompting governments and industries to seek alternative sources and to invest in domestic production. Our modern world, it turned out, was built on a fragile foundation. The intricate network of global trade and technology which had propelled unprecedented progress was suddenly revealed to be susceptible to disruption. The crisis exposed the hidden dependencies that underpin our modern way of life. The lesson was clear: dependency comes at a cost. The reliance on a single source for critical materials can have far-reaching consequences, impacting economies, national security, and the everyday lives of citizens. Diversification and resilience become the new watchwords, as nations seek to protect themselves from future disruptions. The world had to act. International cooperation becomes essential to address the challenges of supply chain security and to ensure a more resilient global economy. Nations come together to forge new partnerships, to promote diversification, and to invest in sustainable solutions. The crisis serves as a catalyst for a more collaborative and secure future. The crisis triggered a global scramble. Governments and companies poured billions into finding new sources, reopening old mines and launching new ones in the US, Australia, and beyond. But mining was only half the battle. The real bottleneck was processing. Rebuilding refining capacity required new facilities and skilled workers, an expensive, years-long effort. Companies like Linus and MP Materials became central to creating a non-Chinese supply chain. Meanwhile, scientists raced to design products using fewer rare earths and to improve recycling. Despite these efforts, China's scale and efficiency remain unmatched. Diversification is underway, but breaking free will takes time. For now, China still holds most of the cards. The world is playing catch-up. China's rare earth dominance isn't just about market share. It's a strategic weapon, carefully honed and deliberately deployed. It's a calculated move in a much larger geopolitical chess game, giving them significant control over global industries. This control extends far beyond simple supply and demand. It allows them to influence policy, dictate terms, and ultimately exert power on a global scale. The implications are far-reaching and demand a closer examination. The 2025 export cut sent a clear message, a stark warning to the world. It was a demonstration of their power, a signal that they were willing to use their rare earth resources as leverage. This wasn't just a minor adjustment to trade policy, it was a deliberate act designed to make nations reconsider their dependence on China. The message was simple: comply, or face the consequences. China controls the resources your economies depend on. From smartphones to electric vehicles, from wind turbines to advanced military systems, rare earth elements are essential components. Without them, entire industries grind to a halt. This chokehold on vital resources gives China immense power, allowing them to dictate the pace of technological advancement and economic growth across the globe. This weaponized supply chain gives Beijing leverage in global disputes, turning trade into a tool of political pressure. Any nation that challenges China's interests risks facing economic retaliation, with their access to critical resources potentially cut off. This creates a climate of fear and uncertainty, forcing countries to carefully consider their actions and align themselves with China's agenda. The risks are huge, potentially destabilizing entire economies and reshaping the global balance of power. We're talking about the potential for widespread economic disruption, job losses, and a significant decline in living standards. The stakes are incredibly high, and the world needs to wake up to the potential consequences of China's dominance. Another cutoff could cripple industries, bringing manufacturing to a standstill and disrupting supply chains worldwide. Imagine factories sitting idle, production lines silent, and businesses struggling to survive. The impact would be felt across every sector of the economy, from automotive to electronics to renewable energy. It could spike prices, making essential goods unaffordable for many, and stall green energy initiatives, hindering the global effort to combat climate change. The transition to a sustainable future depends on access to these critical materials, and China's control threatens to derail our progress. China has used this power before, demonstrating its willingness to weaponize its resource dominance for political gain. This isn't just a theoretical threat, it's a proven tactic that they've employed in the past and are likely to use again in the future. They halted exports to Japan in 2010 after a territorial dispute, sending a clear message that economic consequences would follow any challenge to their sovereignty. This act served as a wake-up call to the world, highlighting the vulnerability of nations dependent on Chinese rare earth supplies. Now it's investing in mines abroad, securing access to even more rare earth resources around the world. This strategic expansion further solidifies their control over the global supply chain, making it even more difficult for other nations to compete. This is tightening its grip for decades to come, ensuring its continued dominance in the rare earth market and solidifying its position as a global superpower. These long-term investments are designed to create a lasting advantage, making it incredibly challenging for other nations to break free from their dependence. A major crisis could trigger an economic shock worse than the oil crises of the 1970s, sending the global economy into a tailspin. The scarcity of rare earth elements could lead to widespread inflation, unemployment, and social unrest, with devastating consequences for nations around the world. Our defense, technology, and prosperity are all at risk, threatened by China's control over these vital resources. From the weapons systems that protect our nations to the smartphones that connect us, rare earth elements are essential for modern life. The world's dependence is a vulnerability few understand, a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. Most people are unaware of the extent to which our economies rely on these critical materials and the potential consequences of a disruption in supply. China's long game has paid off, positioning them as a dominant force in the global economy and giving them unprecedented power. Their strategic investments and calculated moves have allowed them to amass a significant advantage, leaving other nations scrambling to catch up. And the consequences are global, impacting every nation and every industry. The world must recognize the threat and take action to diversify supply chains, invest in alternative materials, and reduce its dependence on China. The future of our economies and our security depends on it. Rare earths are the invisible foundation of modern life. China's control over them is one of the most significant stories of our time. Breaking this dependency requires investment, innovation, and international cooperation. We must diversify supply chains, accept environmental costs, and develop new materials and recycling technologies. This isn't just a government problem, it's a global challenge. Our prosperity, green transition, and security all depend on it. The future belongs to those who secure these critical resources. Awareness is the first step. Ask where your products come from, and urge leaders to act. The future isn't just written in code, it's forged in minerals. Who controls them will shape our world.